Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 5 of the PvA Nightly Rundown. I'm your host, Luke Croft, here to bring you all of the gaming news that you may have missed throughout the last couple days so that you don't look like an idiot at the water cooler tomorrow when you're at work. Somebody is like, man, I wish we had anything on our radar for when we're going to get more details about Google Stadia. And you can say, hey, you idiot, there's stuff coming in the next couple days, and here are my thoughts on what we're going to see. Um, but probably gonna do a little bit longer of the show tonight. I'm not planning on playing any games. My wife's coming back from trip to DC over the weekend, so she should be home around 11 o'clock or so. And so I'll probably hang out, talk to the chat for a little while, and also if my frame rate's a little stuttery, it's uploading the background to the cloud at the same time. So things are just going to be a little hiccupy here and there. But oh man, had a weird weekend. It's always weird when my wife goes out of town. Like, you know, first like half a day or so, I'm like, man, all right, this is cool. I can like go to the coffee shop, get some of my stuff done, like, you know, had some stream stuff that I wanted to work on for both this show and for PvA radio in general. And so I was like, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get some of that stuff knocked out, and I'll tell a funny story about the coffee shop here in just a second. But so I'm good. I'm good for about half a day, and then evening time rolls around, and I start getting a little bummed that she's not around. So I always get into like this weird funk, like. So I ended up just watching both seasons of Barry, um, and which fucking awesome show. If you were disappointed by Game of Thrones, go watch Barry. They're not even in like the same stratosphere of like of genre or anything like that, but Barry does such a good job subverting your expectations. It was what made Game of Thrones so good for the first few seasons, and Barry just exquisite, very very good. Great performances across the board from everybody who's in the cast as well. Like just an awesome show. I definitely recommend it. But yeah, so like Saturday night rolled around and I was like, man, super bummed. Like I woke up Saturday thinking I was gonna golf, and because I hadn't been golfing in a while, but I just was like not feeling it. And so I was like, I'm calming it down over there, dog. She's scratching and sounds like someone's knocking on the door. Anyway, just wasn't really feeling it. So ended up just working on a couple things at the coffee shop, and then, watching Barry. And then Sunday I woke up and was like, I'm going to try to hit the links. So packed up all my stuff, went, bought a couple packs of balls and a new golf glove, got out and actually shot pretty well for my first day back in like over a year. I was like I hope I shoot under 100. Like that was my goal. I want to shoot under 100 when I get out there, and I did. I shot a 95, which was awesome. Felt really good. I could have shot in the high 80s if I didn't freaking fall apart in the last 3 holes. So if that tells you how bad my last 3 holes were. Outside of that, though, had a good Sunday, and decided like we got DoorDash in our area for the recently. We've been getting like all these discount codes, and I was like, I'm gonna try this out, like, because to me that's just from the future. Like I can go to my phone, order something from a restaurant that doesn't have delivery, have them bring it to my house. Wild. So I did it. I was like, I'm going to order some Mexican food. And I'm going through the menu. I'm looking at the vegetarian options. And so my whole thing has been like, I am going to not eat meat but I'll eat seafood every now and again. And I was like, you know what? I haven't had shrimp in a while. I'll eat some shrimp. Ordered the shrimp Diablo or whatever. Had them bring it to my house. It was awesome. It only took like 25 minutes. Did not cost that much because they're running a deal right now where you get like a month of free deliveries or something like that. But I'll tell you what, man, if you go from not eating any meat for like the last month to trying to eat meat, oh my gosh, dude. Oh, I felt so terrible last night. Like, I was good up until about when I laid down to go to sleep, and I just felt like death. And then I just kept waking up in the middle of the night, so I didn't end up going to work today because I was just like exhausted. Because I didn't sleep, so I slept on and off a little bit today. I'm not good at taking naps, so I was like, all right. But anyway, so yeah, really weird weekend. Like good in some ways, bad in others, like kind of meh in others. Like, but it's a short week for me. Thursday. I mean, I'm off on Friday. Got a couple big things planned for this week, so yeah, I'm looking forward to next weekend. There, here is. There he is. There, here is. Hey, Bill, for real, what's up, my dude? Um, yeah. Anyway, so weird weekend, but it's all good. Lauren comes back tonight, and I think that's gonna reset everything, make everything go back to normal for a while. So, she's on a train right now, which is interesting. Uh, so yeah, we've got news to cover today, but I've also got time because I'm not really planning on playing anything tonight, despite the fact that I'm becoming a League of Legends pro. What? Bill, for real, dropping the tier 1 subscription. Oh my gosh, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, now you got those Kappa emotes. You have access to the sub only channel in our Discord, which we gotta kind of ramp up, get things going. So I greatly appreciate that, my dude. Thank you so much. And thanks again for having me on the show last week. I had a chance to go back and listen to it, and I had a really great time. So anytime you need a butt to fill a third seat, let me know. I'm happy to come on. So yeah, let me tell you my coffee shop story. So the coffee shop I go to is a weird place, a very weird place. The coffee's good, but it's like super expensive. I mean, it's typical like small town coffee shop, right? Like mad expensive. The customer service is like, man, I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone in, ordered a black coffee, and then like sat and waited for an hour. So I'm there almost every single day, right? I work from home. I like being around people, but I don't want to drive an hour and a half to the office. So at least like 3 times a week, I'm at the coffee shop. And weird stuff. One day I'll do like a just chatting, and I'll just tell all of the weird ass stories of things that have happened to me at this coffee shop. Anyway, so they recently got their ABC license, so they've been serving beer on tap. And there's not a ton of places where you can get like draft beer, draft craft beer in my area. So I was like, you know what? I want to get some things done. It's around lunchtime. I'm going to go grab a salad and get a beer. So I go into the coffee shop, and I'm like looking at the tap. I'm like, so what do you guys have on tap right now? And like the 3 people that are working there just kind of look at each other bewildered that somebody would come into this establishment that sells beer wanting to know what kind of beer that they're selling. And so they're like looking at each other. They're like, this isn't really our area. I'm like, how is this not your area? It's behind the counter. You guys are behind the counter. How do you not know? And so she was like, hold on, I'm gonna go see if somebody's in the back that can help you. I was like, no, I'm good. I can read the taps. Like, I was, just wanting to like have a little conversation about it, see if there was anything recommended. Well, they had this tangerine like wheat beer on tap, so that's like right up my alley. Citrusy wheat beer, real light. Like, so I was like, I'm gonna go with that. It's gonna be $6 for this glass of beer, right? So, which is to be expected for any kind of draft on like craft on tap. So I'm ordering, I'm paying, and out of the corner of my eye I see the girl pouring my beer, and she's got the glass. Okay, good. It's not getting chroma keyed. My mic came unplugged. Anyway, she's holding the glass directly under it and just like pouring it. So I don't know if you guys are into beer at all, but if you do that and you're not venting it on the side, it's so like when you pour a beer, you're supposed to put the tap down in it and then like have it go on the side, and then as it's filling up, you tilt it and the head will come up over the edge, but it won't overflow, right? Well, when you pour it down directly, all it does is foam up. So this thing is like getting wildly out of control. And it's like I look over and there's literally as much beer as there is in my glass right now, and the rest of it is just head. And she's like, "Oh no, okay, I'm gonna, I'll keep pouring. Don't worry." I'm like, okay. And I'm not saying anything, right? Like, you get into this weird state where you feel like I'm in there enough and I spend enough money in there that I feel like I've earned the right to kind of speak my mind if something's not right. But I'm also in there so much that I don't want to like make an ass out of myself, right? And like make it awkward. So I'm like, did I say something to this girl? Like, and so then I think I saw, and if I know I saw this, I would have said something. But I think I saw it, right? Like, I'm not sure if I saw it. But there's a trick that if you get foam in a cup, right? Like if you're pouring soda especially, you can like put your finger on it and it'll make it go down. I'm almost positive I saw her do that. And I don't care how many times you've washed your hands throughout the day, I do not want your finger in my drink. But again, I wasn't. If I would have been positive I'd seen it, I would have said something. But I wasn't super positive that I saw it. Anyway, so foam goes down. She gets back to pouring again, directly under there. She's not understanding why it's just all foam again. This time she's got it up to half, and she's like waiting for it, and she's kind of doing this number, trying to get it to go down. I'm like, holy hell. So she tries again. This time gets it up to about 3/4, and she goes, "Okay, Luke, here you go," and hands it to me. And the glass was literally only full up to here. And I was like, "That's a $6 pour?" She's like, "I don't know what's going on. I guess we're getting to the bottom of the keg. This is as good as it's gonna get." I was like, "Are you kidding me? $6 for a beer, and you're gonna give me 3/4 of a glass and say it's as good as it gets? Here's a bullshit excuse." I was so mad, and I didn't even end up drinking most of it because all I could see in my head was her like dipping her finger into it to get the foam to go down. Like, oh my gosh, she was just like, "All right." The beer wasn't that great, but I don't think it was because of the beer. I think it was because of the way that it was poured, right? Like, and it like aerating it like this, like it's a fucking glass of wine. The opposite of what you want to do with a beer. Like, part of the experience of beer is the effervescence. You don't want to get all the bubbles out, right? Oh, man. This is the PvA Nightly Rundown. We are going to get to some gaming news. I just wanted to share that story with you. Guys, if you want to keep up with the stories we're doing, click on stuff, read along with me, and give the creators of these things the credit that they deserve. You can press ! show notes in the chat, and you can follow along. I'll also link in the description over on the YouTube video. Also realized earlier today I never got the YouTube video for Friday's episode up. I'll make sure all that gets pushed over because it's all archived over here. So sorry about that. So yeah, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into that. 15 minutes into the show. We are doing a special episode of PvA Radio on Thursday night. We're going to talk E3 predictions with the guys from Popped Off, the Project Esports podcast that I was on. So that'll be at 9 o'clock over here on this channel. Make sure you're over here for it. I think we're going to have a good time. We're getting into that weird phase where it's going to be really hard to make predictions about anything that hasn't leaked yet, right? So tons of leaks. And just as a reminder, we don't cover leaks. E3 leaks. It's not any kind of like ethical stance I'm taking. It is that I like to be excited for E3, and I don't want to go clicking into a bunch of articles about things I'm going to see next week anyway, right? So there's far more leaked news that came out over the last couple days that we aren't going to cover here, but regardless, I just want you to know that exists, and Next week, obviously, when E3 is happening and the PvA Nightly Rundown is happening, then we'll be covering all of that stuff. Um, so expect long episodes, at least the first half of next week as well. I'm also going to be doing the live reaction show for the Microsoft and Bethesda show, and I believe Cody and Larry will be joining us for the Microsoft presentation as well on Sunday, and that'll be over on twitch.tv/popped_off. All right. Enough housekeeping. This is diet tea that I'm drinking. Very, very hype. What is Larry doing? Texting me middle of the show. He needs to come jump into the chat if he wants to ask me a question. All right, so let's jump into our releases, guys. Releasing today, and again, I pull all of this over from the Kotaku This Week in Games. They do a great little roundup of everything that's going to be coming out. We're going to be light this week because E3 is coming next week. You don't want your games to get lost. So there's 4 games on the release date on the release schedule for today. Nothing really big coming throughout the rest of this week. I think Tuesday's a big day. Thursday and Friday are decent sized days as well for releases, but we're still talking, 8, 9, 10 games, so not the big 20 list that we often come to. So what came out today? All of these are on PC. We got Bit Chasm, Iron Heart, Pet Puzzle, and Fruit Mess. All of those out on PC today. So, no real Game of the Year contenders coming out the week ahead of E3, but my throat's like real dry. All right, let's move into the news. There is Google Stadia information coming out this week on June 6th. This is from Michael McWhirter over on Polygon. It says Google will reveal more about its Stadia gaming platform on June 6th during a live stream presentation called Stadia Connect. The company promises launch and pricing details, game reveals, and more, according to the stream's description on YouTube. The first Stadia Connect will air on YouTube on Thursday, June 6th at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. And Google promises it will be the first of a series of streams that gives viewers, quote, a look at Stadia news events, new games, bonus features, and more, end quote. Quote, some news can't wait for E3, Google teases. E3 2019 officially kicks off on June 11th, but game publishers will crowd the days ahead of the show with a series of press briefings and live streams. So, Google Stadia, right? Big game streaming platform announced a couple months ago at GDC back in March. We had a huge discussion about it over on PvA Radio right after it was announced. But to kind of just recap where I am excited about Google Stadia. I think that this kind of streaming service is the future of games in a lot of ways, and the future of game distribution. I think that we're going to slowly start to move ourselves away from hardware releases. But what I want to do tonight is kind of make some predictions about what I think we're going to see at this Google Stadia event on June 6th. The first thing I want to note is I think it's interesting that they talked about this as the first Stadia Connect. We've seen all of the big three, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, adopt these direct style approaches where they can just release video content to announce stuff directly to the consumers without having to, make a stage presentation or anything like that. It's really like a direct to consumer communication. And the fact that Google is adopting that as well, I think, is really cool. I think it really fits on brand with what they're trying to do, but it also creates an interesting avenue for them to make game reveals and allow people to immediately play said game reveals from the stream, right? So the whole premise of Google Stadia is you can play games from your browser. So if they're doing their live stream over on YouTube, which is where this is going to be hosted, all of them are going to be hosted. Obviously, it's a Google property. let's say they're like, all right, guys, and one of the games we're bringing to Google Stadia is Firewatch. If you'd like to play Firewatch in your browser right now, click here, and like have a banner that comes up on top of it. People can click it, and boom, they're instantly playing Firewatch. That's dope, dude. Like real time, direct to consumer announcements and it's actionable right that instant. I don't have to go pick up my Switch like I've done many times in the past where they've announced something. I don't have to turn on my Xbox or my PlayStation in order to download something. It's boom, right there, instantly in front of me. Like that's really really dope, right? Um, so let's talk predictions. What I think we're going to see here, and feel free to weigh in the chat as well. I like how they've kind of set forth what it is that they're going to be showing, or they're going to be talking about: pricing details, game reveals, and more. Also, launch details. So we're talking like release date or rollout. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm not even going to talk about game reveals very much. One thing I do think is that they're going to have a unique partnership with Ubisoft uh, with this program. Assassin's Creed was one of the first games you could test on this platform. They tested, in-browser playing of Assassin's Creed. So I think that Ubisoft has kind of gone hand in hand with them through this process, and I think that we're going to see them continue to do that. So from the game side of things, I think that's as far as I want to go from the prediction standpoint, because honestly, there's going to be so much that you're going to be able to play. Like they're going to have a library ready to go. And I think we may even see details about some sort of like Google first party developed games, because we know that Google's been hiring internally for game makers, and not just people who can R&D the tech that makes Stadia possible, but for actual like developers and teams. So I think we're going to see Ubisoft. I think we're going to see possibly like some sort of first party reveal as well. So let's talk. Let's start with launch date. When do I think this is going to release? There is a part of me. There's a part of me that really believes they could go out on stage and do some sort of limited launch right then and there. June 6th at noon, saying, hey, you want to go play these 5 games? They're available right now on Google Stadia. We're running it as a play test, long term, no access. You can just go into your browser, play these games, right? You don't have to pay for it. Some sort of limited push to get people buzzing, because look, the big hang up with this is, how's it going to work for me? I live in kind of a rinky-dink small town in Virginia. I have decent internet speeds. I don't really have many questions about how is this going to operate for me. I'm able to stream with, pretty decent quality. I don't think my internet can handle like streaming a game from Stadia and then streaming that game out to Twitch. But I know, I'm confident in the fact that I will be able to play games in my browser through Google Stadia. But I don't live in the middle of the country where all I can get is like fucking DSL, and at peak hours I'm pulling like, half a meg, right? And so that's a big concern, and I think that people in a lot of ways are overestimating how much internet they're going to need in order for something like this to happen. Google's talked about how they've, they're working their algorithm to be able to optimize the speeds that are required to play at certain qualities. Do I think that means 100% of people with internet access are going to be able to play on Google Stadia? No. But I think it's going to be a much higher percentage. And so I think it's really important for Google right at the start to say, get your hands in there, try it yourself, see how it works. Yeah, your internet may only be able to handle, whatever they set their minimum threshold at, right? Like, you don't want people playing these games in fucking like 480p, right? You want them playing it in like, also, was there music playing behind me? I just realized that this video has some music behind it, so I apologize if that was drowning out my voice at all. Anyway, I I think it's going to require people to get their hands in there and realize that, like, oh shit, I can play this. Oh, I was talking about minimum quality, right? Like, you don't want to set the threshold so small that it's like, oh, well, you can play it at 480p, because there's going to be some sort of reasonable expectation of quality that people have, and I think that you have to either tell people like, hey, you don't have the internet to run this at 720 or 1080 or whatever they want to set that minimum at, just because you start getting videos going out of like, oh man, I can run Assassin's Creed, but it's in 480p. Ha 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 ha. Like, um, I don't know. I feel like that looks worse than just saying like, hey, your internet can't handle this, right? That's at least my opinion about it. I don't know. Yo, Andy Gardner, thank you so much for the host, my dude. Welcome, welcome. It's been a while since I've seen you over here, but I appreciate you stopping by today. We're talking about Google Stadia. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be about making believers out of the people. What? Roy, speed run with the raid of a party of three? Welcome, welcome. To Roy's community. This is my nightly gaming news show called the PvA Nightly Rundown, where we take about an hour to talk about the news. You've tuned in tonight to a time where we're probably going to take a little bit more time to walk through all this, just because I'm not really planning on playing much of anything after my wife's coming back from a trip from DC. So, how was your stream, Roy? What were you playing? Also, we'll do this. Oh, Rainbow Six Siege. That's right, dude. I've seen you playing it the last couple nights. So, also Ballad. Hello, hello, welcome. Um, yeah, I've seen you playing it the last couple nights. I haven't had a chance to stop by. So, are you kind of a newbie, or is Rainbow Six Siege something that you've been into? But if you're just joining us, we're talking about Google Stadia and what we're expecting from this event that they're putting on June 6th. Um, so I'm thinking some sort of limited launch of, a handful of games that are just kind of free to access and play right then and there, because I think it's really about getting people in there to test it and see that it's something achievable for their technology, their internet speeds. Consider myself a noob. Nice. Yeah, I got a buddy of mine who really is trying to convince me to jump into Siege, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I need one other competitive game taking over my life. I'm playing a lot of Rocket League. I'm playing a lot of Overwatch, and I'm playing a lot. I'm getting into League of Legends. I wouldn't say I'm playing a lot of League of Legends, but I'm playing a little bit of League of Legends. Um, so yeah, but as far as like a full launch date, I could see that coming sometime around, uh, September, October, something like that. They may not even announce like a hard release date for the whole entire platform, just because they want to take feedback that they're getting from whatever limited launch they're going to do. All of this is in the wild speculation realm. Also, if you guys want to keep up with what we're talking about, exclamation point show notes, you can click that read only link. These are all the articles we're going to be covering. Used to be so good at Rocket League, was thinking of playing it tonight. Nice. I am not good at it. I just got back into it. I played it when it first came out. I actually think I played it in its beta state, and then when it came out on Games with Gold, not Games with Gold, PlayStation Plus Instant Collection, I think is what it was called at the time. But then I like didn't touch it for a long time, and recently got back into it. So yeah, let's talk price, because I think we're gonna get that limited release. I don't know if we're gonna get full details about full launch, but I would see like late September, early October being a really good window for that. Um, and then I think people are just kind of a little out of their minds when they're thinking about what this game is going to entail when it comes to, I mean, what this platform is going to entail when it comes to how much they're going to be paying for it, right? I've seen some people talking like, oh, all it's going to be is like a monthly access fee, and you're going to be able to just play this gamut of games in their library or whatever. Um, I just don't think that business model makes any sense. I don't know how publishers recoup their money if they put their game on a platform like Google Stadia and they say, "Hey guys, for 20 bucks a month you can access Google Stadia." So I think it's going to kind of be a mix and match, right? Like you're gonna have to pay for access to Stadia itself, right? Um, you're gonna have to, let's say, I'm thinking like $20 a month gets you access to Stadia and then a library of games in that's included in that service, and it's probably gonna rotate. Google Stadia, like Google first party developed games will probably be a part of it. We'll probably see like some Ubisoft titles in there as well because of the partnership that they've had through this whole entire trek. So we're gonna get some of that sort of stuff, and then I think they're also gonna be like, okay, you can also play, you know, Call of Duty Modern Warfare on it, but you're gonna have to pay the full $60, or you're gonna have to pay some sort of like a la carte price. $40, and you get access to Modern Warfare when it releases. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how they communicate the pricing model, because you can't just sell access and expect people to feel like, oh yeah, like that makes sense to me. $20 just in order to get to the platform, but you got to think of it in the way of like, you spend $500 on your brand new Xbox One or $400 on your brand new PS4 in order to play these new games. Like, there's still a cost associated with maintaining and building out Stadia as a platform, right? It has to be managed and covered. Um, and I think that, but I don't think you can just say like $20 and you have access to it, and then boom, you have to pay a la carte for everything. So I think it'll come with some sort of like instant access library. Um, so yeah, I think that kind of sums up my thoughts. I think we're going to see limited release day of play X amount of games today, a full rollout September, October, end of September, early October. $20 a month access, which gives you access to this library that includes Ubisoft games, a bunch of other partnerships we brokered, and then you'll be able to pay for access to other games that are coming to the platform as well. Your other third party games. So that's what I'm expecting to see. I'm also really excited. Like, I don't know, this turns E3 is getting longer, right? It used to just be Monday and Tuesday, mostly Monday, and then Nintendo would like go on Tuesday. It started to stretch out a little bit, got into Sunday with EA Play, got into Saturday a little bit. Now we're starting on Thursday. Dope, dude. Dope. Well, we started even last week with the Death Stranding stuff, right? I'm here for it too, man. I think it's awesome. I think it's absolutely awesome. I get so hype around this time of year. All right. Let me know what you guys think is coming, or even what you think of Google Stadia, because I feel like people are really split on it. For me, it's something I'm really excited about. I think it's like the future of gaming, and I'm excited to see like this kind of, not really the entry point into it, because we've seen game streaming with like PlayStation Now and things like that, but the real big like consumer facing thing. I'm really interested in how they're going to communicate it, both the pricing and just the concept in general. How they're going to win people over who are worried about, can my internet handle this? Like, I don't know. I feel like we're at the precipice of something with Stadia, like we haven't seen since like online gaming, right? Like the PS1, Xbox days, especially in like the Xbox. I mean, the PS2, Xbox days, and then even more so in the PS3 360 days. Feels like that mammoth of a moment. Next item on the list, guys. Todd Howard with some interesting quotes about Fallout 76. It's a better business model. I think it is the future. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Bill, for real. Like, if it is a financially viable way, it almost makes you wonder, like, should Google have waited for the pricing to come out for the PS5 and the Xbox, 1, 2, or whatever the hell they're going to call it, and say, like, hey, look, you can play next gen games on the Xbox One 2 or the PS5 and pay $400, $500 for the hardware there, or you can pay $20 for instant access to even more powerful technology, in order to play these games streaming them. I don't expect it to blast off right away, but I do think it will be something we will see more of. Yeah, and I think that it'll be one of those things like it's going to have to really spread by word of mouth. Oh, hey man, did you see like you can play Assassin's Creed in your browser? Check this out. I'll shoot you a link. Fire that over like in a Facebook link or whatever. And boom, people are instantly playing it. I think it adds a really interesting element to streams where it's like, all right, guys, we're getting to this boss fight. Let's see who can finish the boss fight first. Let me send out the link to my save file. Everybody jumps in, and boom, we're all playing at the same exact moment together. Like, really interesting things that'll be able to happen with it. And so that word of mouth is going to have to gain steam, and it's also going to require people like, Larry. I live in like small town Virginia. Larry lives in like bumfuck Virginia, right? Like their internet is not great at all where he is, and it's going to take people who take a chance on it in an area like that, who are able to talk to their friends in those areas and say, "Hey, man, I know you think you don't have the internet for this, but but just try it. Just try it." And it's going to be on Google to like create those entry points for it, right? Which I think is really important for them on Thursday to say like, "All right, guys, we've been talking about this. Go try it out. Go try it out." Next item on the list, guys. This is from Samuel Horty over on PCGamer.com. It says Bethesda was ready for Fallout 76's rough reception. This was according to Todd Howard. It says Bethesda director Todd Howard has said that the studio expected a rough reception for Fallout 76 and that he thinks the online RPG has somewhat damaged the developer's reputation. Quote, "We knew we were going to have a lot of bumps," end quote, he said when asked by IGN whether Bethesda was prepared for the negative reaction. So I'm going to stop right there real quick to just say that this is from a podcast called Unfiltered, where Ryan McCaffrey talks to like industry devs, like just industry people, not just developers. If you are a gaming fan and you do not listen to Unfiltered, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, pick up your phone right now, go to your podcast app that you listen to, and then type in Unfiltered and subscribe to that podcast. While you're there, also search for PvA Radio and press go live, right? Because you're a fake gamer if you don't listen to those either. Full disclosure, those are my podcasts, so I'm very biased. All right. Quote, "We knew this is not the type of game that people are used to from us, and we're going to get some criticism on it, and a lot of that is very well-deserved criticism," end quote. Asked whether Fallout 76's launch had dealt any lasting damage to Bethesda's reputation or to the Fallout name, Howard said, quote, "I'm sure it had some. It would be naive to say it had zero, but I think if people come to the game now, they'd be surprised." Howard said he wishes the team had got Fallout 76 into players' hands earlier for more extensive testing. Quote, "The main takeaway we had was you've got to let it bake with a large live audience for longer than we did. There are just certain things you can never see until it's running 24/7 for a number of months," end quote. So he goes on to talk about how they really feel like they've turned the game around, that if people were to come back and revisit Fallout 76, they'd be really, really pleased with it. I thought about calling Larry because Larry is a big Fallout 76 fan. And he's recently jumped back into it and is really pleased with his experience as well. But I want to kind of take this article in pieces, but first I'm going to get to Ballad of the Salad, who says, "I just want supercomputers to be a thing. Come on, IBM. Are supercomputers not a thing? I thought supercomputers were definitely a thing." Not to question your knowledge, Ballad of the Salad, but supercomputers sound like it's a real thing in the Pentagon or something like that, you know? We don't know what the Pentagon does and doesn't have. Apparently UFOs are very, very real. They've been covering up all their investigations. Quantum computers, that's the memes. A huge Fallout fan, but I constantly forget 76 exists. I doubt it's really anything special. I think it's something special. Thank you, Roy Speedrun, for getting us back on the rails here. I think it is something special for the people who are interested in a very specific thing. And that is somebody who is interested in kind of creating their own stories in a world, which is not really what Fallout 76 has been about. It's been about shaping your characters and about shaping a narrative, but it's never been about creating it, right? all the Fallout games prior are like built around a narrative that you exist within and that shapes you just as much as you shape it. Fallout 76 is much more about like role playing. And if you go and you read like all the interesting stuff that Kotaku writes, it's all about like, hey, there's this cannibal that set up mazes, or there's these people leaving bags of poop all over people's beds. Like, there's things like that. There's nothing super compelling about the actual narrative within the game. And I think that's where my big criticism about Fallout 76 comes into play. Like, I think Bethesda has the space to create a game like this, and they have the talent to create a game like this. And I think there is an interest in games like this. But to just completely bastardize a franchise that had so much goodwill among fans in order to push it without having to, like, you're cashing in on brand equity that you built, right? And when people come to the game expecting something at least a little bit similar to what they've received in other Fallout games, only to be disappointed by what they received with Fallout 76, like, you have absolutely bastardized the thing that you've spent years and years building. The thing that makes Bethesda games special is the questing, which is almost completely gone in Fallout 76. I mean, if it played anything like DayZ, that could be dope. Yeah, and I think that's the big problem is like, well, I think that's the big problem with certain sections of the audience, right? Role playing's always been a thing in Fallout games, but it's always been like an orbital thing outside of like the main framework of what makes Fallout Fallout. And so for Fallout 76 to take this orbital thing and like make it the centerpiece, and then not only to make it the centerpiece, but to do it really, really poorly, well, you come to expect a certain level of jank and like unpolishedness. Is that a word? Unpolishedness with Bethesda games, but this went like far beyond that, right? And this whole like we expected to have bumps and yada yada yada. Like, of course you did. Like, it's effectively, it's not a new IP, but it's like a sub IP within something existing, and they knew like we're making this something that it's not. We're making Fallout 76 something that Fallout has never been. And so you have to have those things. Like, anytime you make a decision where something is so different from what people are used to, there's obviously gonna be some negativity towards it. But so from like the game development standpoint, and like the side of just strategic direction for the franchise, like, of course, I think there were missteps. But where Bethesda's really lost a lot of the goodwill with me is just in the corporate missteps they took with their fan base. Mainly like the controversy surrounding the collector's edition and stuff. Like, you took your most hardcore of hardcore fans and got them excited about something enough to want to spend a considerable amount of money, only to turn around and change it because you're like, well, we realize that canvas bags are pretty expensive. We know that we charged you $200 or $250, whatever it was, for the collector's edition. And that's where, like, for me, it's almost a point of no return, right? So I have a long track record of abandoning games that have like shit on the people that make those games possible. I stopped playing No Man's Sky, not because it was a bad game, even though it underdelivered in a lot of ways, but because they went radio silent after the game released. And they basically were just like, all right, we hear the negativity. They didn't say this, but the way they acted was, we hear the negativity, we're going to hole up and work on it, but we're not going to give any updates for months. I did the same thing with Pokemon Go. People were spending real life money to get Pokeballs. They were losing them because the game would glitch. Niantic would completely mum on issuing refunds for it. And I was like, these are the people that make your game possible. They make your game possible, and you're going to completely shit on them? It just doesn't fly with me. And I think Bethesda did that with Fallout 76. It was like, they flew into this knowing we're going to receive some criticism, and we're going to take our lumps as they come. But in doing so, they became callous to the actual complaints that people had. And the justifiable complaints that they had. When you get fucking screwed over by somebody, and then somebody from your customer service department says, Yep, and that's as much as we're going to say about that. They were too expensive, and you're just going to have to deal with it. It just doesn't fly with me, man. It doesn't fly. And in speaking just about games as services and how important it is to like give yourself this runway, uh, I think they came to a good conclusion. Like this was a totally new style game for them to develop. They don't have a ton of experience in it. They did their little like break it early test, whatever they called it, their little funny beta acronym. But that lasted, a weekend, and then they were like, "All right, well, that's as much testing as we need," and they flew into it with such confidence, right? And then it came out, and it's like, "This is broke, this is broke," and it felt like everywhere you turned, it was negative story after negative story about Fallout 76. And I think that there's a reason that you see games like this launch in an early access state and then like ramp up into a full release. And Fallout 76 needed that desperately. Um, look, this isn't a new problem, right? In game development, but how often are we sold a $60 game at its cheapest, right? Because you have other people who are buying special editions to get the DLC. You're getting people who are buying games with like the season pass attached to it. You're getting people buying collector's editions where they get everything in game, but also like a statue. Like they're dropping real hardcore coin on these games, only to open it up and realize like, oh shit, this is broken and incomplete. Fallout's always been broken when it's come out. It's rarely been incomplete. There's always been a ton of content in Fallout. But this felt like it was both. They kind of adopted all of the same issues that you get when it comes to modern day development. And it just, again, taking such a beloved franchise and ripping it out of its context because you didn't want to take the time to build up a new brand. I don't know. I think they took shortcuts, and I think they're rightfully paying for said shortcuts. And I think it's going to take a while for them to gain my trust back. I think for a lot of people, all it is like, oh, you just want to see some Elder Scrolls and Starfield. We're back on board. Bygones be bygones, my dude. All right. Next item on the list, Rainbow Six. Ubisoft has talked about the future of Rainbow Six. So if you're still here, Roy, this is of interest to you. Rainbow Six Siege brand director Alexandre Remy discusses the future of Ubisoft's Montreal's successful competitive shooter. This is from, dude, this site design is so... Michael Ruiz over at Dualshocker. I think it's a really beautiful design, but this element right over here, the white on white where you can't read anything, hey, let's do something about that. In a recent interview with Rainbow Six Siege brand director Alexandre Remy, the future of the game, including sequel plans, its availability on next-gen platforms, and migration options has been unveiled. Reported by Daily Star from the Rainbow Six Siege Pro League Series Finals in Milan, Ubisoft Montreal does not have plans for a sequel. Quote, "We don't want a sequel whatsoever," end quote, Remy remarks, stomping on any hopes for a new iteration of the popular shooter. However, the team behind Rainbow Six Siege would like the game to come to next-gen consoles. The dream is to have every player able to play together. That's not a good sentence. The dream is to have every player can play together. The dream is that every player can play together. PvA just telling it how it is. With this website design and how they need to fix this, you're right. You're right. You're right. I work at a firm that does web design. So, and I look at websites super critically. It's all like, all right, what are they trying to get me to do here? Now, look, my website, not design. I'm not a designer. I have an eye for feedback, but I am not myself a designer. So I can look at something and tell you what's wrong with it. I can't like make something that follows all the best practices, but just a little quality of life there, you know. Put a little drop shadow behind those letters or something. Clean it right up. Quote, "The reason behind this is we don't want to segregate our community between the different platforms. In an ideal world, tomorrow, we'd love players from every platform to be able to play together. We are approaching next gen with the same spirit," end quote. So, a couple different things to unpack here. First is that Rainbow Six Siege not wanting a sequel, and I think that some reactions to this have been a little bit split, but I think, like, feedback on all of your nudes. Yeah, dude. Yeah, join our Discord. Send them over. I got you. Got you. Now, are they tasteful? Are they tasteful? Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I got you, dude. Hold on one second. A lot of BDS. All right, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, send those, send those right over. Close crotch shots, dude. It's all about the frame dick pic, you know. Like, enough of this. Like, I'm gonna Snapchat it to you, or sending in a text message. It's all about taking that bad boy to Olin Mills, getting that matted and framed in a nice, like, 12 by 18, right? Snail mailing that to the person that you love, right? Like, we got to bring the art back to it. That's the problem. It's too accessible. We got to bring the art. I'm sure that Michael Ruiz appreciates me talking about how framed dick pics need to be a thing over top of his article. But I'm just saying, fellas, if you want to win the ladies, you do it with the class. All right? A little dating advice. I'm married, so I did it successfully. We've got pictures of my private parts all over the place, but they're all framed, tastefully taken by a professional photographer. Rainbow Six Siege. Jesus Christ, how do we get on that? Rainbow Six Siege, yeah. I think it makes sense. Like, you build a competitive scene around this game. You're like, Rainbow Six Siege esports are a really big thing. Like, why split the community over two versions of the game? You're going to constantly have people who are like, well, we really like the first iteration of it, so we're going to continue to play that. But we really like the second version. We're going to continue to play that. Like, if you're going to try to push an esport, and this is really the only esport Ubisoft has, it needs to be singularly focused. People have been playing League for a decade. You know, we've got Overwatch going into its 4th year now, and no talks of a sequel that I've heard. I don't see there being a Rocket League 2 coming out, and so I think it makes sense. I don't think anybody should be like shocked at the news that they want to keep their community together. You need to have pre-prepared dick pics for any situation. Very interested in you elaborating on that. Yeah, that'd be great. Like, what situations? Like, oh shit, I forgot my resume for this job interview. It's printed on the back of this. Yeah, so, and then this idea of cross-platform play, I think, like, again, another really great idea. I think it's going to be the direction that we're going here. Allowing people to play across these different platforms. I think that there are more and more games now that exist in this kind of like perpetual state. We've mentioned Overwatch, we've mentioned Rocket League, we're talking about Rainbow Six, like these like console-based competitive games that you throw a wrench in the system when you're like, okay, we want to carry you guys over to this different version on this other console. Giving people an on-ramp. So I think about this like in the Overwatch community, right? So I've got far too many hours in Overwatch, and a lot of those hours are on console. Now, I will admit, I did not pay for Overwatch on console. I game share with a buddy of mine. He's the one that paid for it, and I've played like over 1,000 hours on console. But I don't know why you would say, like, okay, you got to start all over again. I deserve 1 cent. Well, I definitely appreciate that. Seamen too. Your name is a little on the nose with the conversations that we've been having today. So thank you. Also, I'm pretty sure you mean that I deserve 1 cent because that's all the show's worth. But hey, there's some people that are just listening to it for free. And then so that's 4 cents. Certainly appreciate it. All right. So yeah, like in that Overwatch realm where I've played it so much, it's like, well, why should I have to reset and go into another console? Hey, cool. Appreciate it. All right. Let's move on. Next story on the list. Is Beal for real still here? Because this is a Beal for real story. I'm sure he knows what I'm about to bring up here. He is in here. The Russo brothers are going to be making a Magic the Gathering series for Netflix. This is from Game Informer from Matthew Cato. It says Netflix has announced the Avengers Endgame directors Joe and Anthony Russo are executive producing a Magic the Gathering animated series for the streaming service, presenting a new storyline in the property. Vancouver, Canada's Bardell Entertainment, the Dragon Prince, is handling the animation, but today's announcement doesn't reveal when the show is slated to air. Quote, "We have been huge fans and players of Magic the Gathering for as long as it's been around," end quote, said the brothers in a press release. Quote, "So being able to help bring these stories to life through animation is a true project for us." So again, I don't really have experience with the Magic the Gathering franchise. So is this really just going to be a Netflix series about somebody who has opened up like 5 credit cards that they're hiding from their wives in order to buy more Magic the Gathering cards? Because that sounds really compelling to me. Very compelling. I have a friend who got into it for like a couple months and was like, I gotta stop. You can spend far too much money playing Magic the Gathering. But I asked Bill for reals in here because he does a Magic the Gathering podcast. And he also got sunburnt at a Magic the Gathering event. So he's a real, like, veteran of the war. But I'm interested to hear his thoughts. They probably talked about it on their podcast, Project Esports. But I don't know enough about it to really have much of a conversation around it. Just wanted to bring it up. And so for all you nerds out there that love Magic the Gathering, you've got that Netflix series to look forward to. Next item on the list. This is from Liz Lanier over at Variety. Shenmue III needs more refinement and has been delayed to November. Shenmue III's long development process continues, with the game's release getting pushed to winter. Publisher Deep Silver announced on its Kickstarter blog on Monday. The game, which has been in development for more than a decade, was supposed to release in this August 27th, as announced at Gamescom last summer. The new release date is November 19th to give the developers more time to get the game ready. Shenmue 3 is apparently almost finished and ready for players to enjoy, but needs more tweaking, according to the post. Quote, "While almost ready, the game simply needs a little more refinement before being truly finished," end quote. The post from creator Yu Suzuki and Deep Silver stated on Monday, quote, "We feel that the extra time we have will help us deliver the true Shenmue experience players around the world deserve," end quote. So again, with Shenmue, I've not played Shenmue 1 and 2, and but I have opinions not necessarily about the game itself, but in Sony's approach with this game, in the way that this was announced and revealed, and how it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And because of that bad taste, I'm probably not going to play Shenmue 3, even if it was something I was interested in. But we had a company, guys, stand on stage at E3, a company worth billions of dollars, stand on stage at E3 and say, Shenmue 3 is a thing, guys. If you want to see it happen, go give money to this Kickstarter. We're crowdfunding this shit. How ridiculous is that, man? Like, Kickstarter is supposed to be this platform for small creators to go and like get their passion projects or product ideas funded so that they can create them and bring them to market. And then for them to be like, hey guys, we're this giant ass company with like all the means in the world to make this game happen on our own accord, but we would much rather you go give your hard-earned money to this Kickstarter program. We ended up coming up with a policy back when we did the Player 3 podcast that we didn't talk about Kickstarter games because none of them are real until they're real, right? And Shenmue 3 for me has been just following that same trajectory that we've seen. And I'm not saying that this game isn't going to come out on November 19th. Yo, Ballad, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the bits as well. Or the bit. And I look forward to assessing your pictures. Have a great evening. But yeah, Shenmue 3 is following that same exact like trajectory, right? That we continue to see. And again, I'm not saying this isn't coming out in November, But I am saying that, like, DM, I appreciate it, dude. But I am saying that I'm just sick of these games getting funded on Kickstarter and them just pulling their audiences along, right? We've seen a lot of horror stories in this space, and uh, I don't know. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth when you've got a company like Sony who could make this thing happen, but yet they're making people tie their money to it in order to make it happen, rather than just saying, "Hey, we'll do it, and then you guys can spend your $60 on it," knowing that there's a group of people that are excited. Now, on to the actual release date of it, November 19th. What? Why? What are they thinking? Like, just this. It just boggles my mind, right? That they're going to release this middle of the holiday season. Shenmue, while it has a dedicated fan base that's excited about it, it's super niche, and you're releasing it in such a highly contested part of the calendar. Like, what are your expectations for success with this game? Obviously, your Kickstarter crew is going to get it. Um, and then other people who have like been excited about this game for the last 18 years when Shenmue 2 released. But like, how many new people are you going to pick up now after they've spent their money on, Pokemon and Death Stranding and Call of Duty and, the number of other games that are going to be revealed next week at E3 that are going to be coming out in the fall? Like, how much money do you think is going to be left over for people to be like, oh man, Shenmue 3? This weird ass name for a game and a number 3 on the end of it? That seems really appealing. Let me jump right into that. So yeah, weird decisions all around. Next item on the list. We got more details about Call of Duty crossplay. So I just wanted to hit on this real quick. This is from Jasmine Henry over at Gamerant. And I wanted to bring this up mostly because there's been some confusion about what they meant by crossplay. A lot of people have thought, well, does that just mean like PC and Xbox can play together and PS4 and PC can play together, but not fully? Well, somebody tweeted at, hold on, I had the name here. The person who tweeted it was Explosive B Dog, one of the hottest names in breaking gaming news. Tweeted at Candice Lexia, who is connected with the game somehow. I can't. Oh, the community coordinator. And she said, everybody play with everybody, play with everybody, right? So that's the idea. Like, Xbox, PC, PS4, you're all playing together, right? But I think that it does bring up some interesting questions. Jasmine Henry writes in the third paragraph, it says, surprisingly, not everyone was happy with the confirmation. There are 38 replies to the tweet, and many of them say that they don't want to play with PC players. One Twitter user, Stacy Watson, asks, quote, how are you going to solve the problem of aimbots and cheats that are a major issue in PC gaming, end quote. So we've talked a lot about the issues with Apex Legends. It's also been an issue in Call of Duty Blackout, where there's like a ton of aimbotting, a ton of cheating going on. And that's something that I haven't really considered in this whole like conversation about crossplay around Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is going to heavily rely on its massively competitive, just regular multiplayer mode. And if they don't have an issue, they don't have a solution to the issue of aimbotting from the outset, it's not only going to ruin the PC community's experience, but it's also going to ruin console players' experiences unless they turn off this feature that so many people have been asking for. And then the other question, is obviously about mouse and keyboard and how you're going to, even those things out. And, they're going to adopt Fortnite's crossplay method where it's people are organized by input. Oh, hold on one second. Cody Mellerkline checking in on Discord with me. I want to make sure the world's not on fire. We're good. We're good. Anyway, they're going to take the Fortnite approach where you're queuing up based on your input. So if you're on mouse and keyboard, you're going to be paired with other people playing mouse and keyboard, and if you're on controller, obviously with other people on controller. But just some questions around crossplay for Call of Duty getting sorted out there. So if you were wondering, there's the clarity. Next item on the list: DualShock 4 is getting support on Apple devices, and this is from Sammy Barker over on Push Square. So Apple had an event today. They revealed a just astronomically priced Mac Pro, um, and they also revealed that there was going to be full DualShock 4 support, and I believe also Xbox controller support for Apple TV. But they also announced that there's going to be full support on iOS and iPad OS or whatever they're calling it now, because that's a new thing. So really cool accessibility thing. Apple TV just launched the Steam Link app, and so this is going to make that even more usable. You'll be able to play, your PC games on your television via your Apple TV and hook up your DualShock 4 wirelessly to it. So that's just some little tidbit, little cool news. We're kind of just into the little quick hitter, cool news stuff here at the end of the show. This is from Logan Moore over on DualShockers. New control screenshots from Remedy. These screenshots look awesome. So I'll just scroll through these. Remedy made Quantum Break, Alan Wake. This game looks really, really cool to me. A lot of time and space manipulation going on there. Some pictures of the menus, customization options. So yeah, I imagine we'll get more information about this. This game, I don't believe. Oh no, it does have a set release date. It's coming out August 27th. So, and then last item on the list, Cuphead is coming to Tesla. So this is another Ryan McCaffrey podcast called Ride the Lightning, and for his 200th episode, he had Elon Musk on the show. Says Tesla founder Elon Musk confirmed in an interview with Ride the Lightning podcast that Cuphead was coming to the Tesla. The game is already up and running for Tesla's Model 3, Model S, and Model X, and Tesla worked with the game's developer studio MDHR to get it running. Quote, Cuphead, we've got working. It's a cool game. It's insanely difficult. It's sadistically difficult, end quote, Musk said. This is one of those stories that's like, okay. All right, I can play Cuphead in my parked Tesla. And I think it's only the first world. There's other games on it, right? You can play some Atari games, Asteroids, Lunar Lander. But yeah, I think it's only the first world you're going to be able to play. But I don't know. If you're on the fence about a Tesla and you were thinking, man, if only I could play a piece of a current gen game on my Tesla, then now you can pull the trigger, right? But let's be honest, if you can afford a Tesla, you can probably afford an Xbox and a portable screen or a Switch where you can also play Cuphead on the go, and you don't really need your car to do it. Oh man, we growing up, we had a conversion van that had a tube TV, a 13-inch tube TV tucked into it, and we had a VCR hooked up to it. But when we went on long trips, we'd bring the Sega Genesis with the power inverter and be able to play our Genesis games. Sonic, Mortal Kombat, Madden. And it was cool. It was novel. But now there's better ways to do that. I don't know why I need my heads-up display in my Tesla to be able to play it. So, all right, guys. Well, that's actually going to do it for us tonight. I'm not playing anything. My wife's going to be home here shortly. So I appreciate you guys stopping by the PvA Nightly Rundown. We do this every single night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Wednesdays where we do our actual podcast, PvA Radio. If you can't catch us live, you can find us over on youtube.com/PvA Radio, where everything goes up the very next morning. And if you want to join our Discord, we chat about gaming news there. You guys can share stories you want to see included in the PvA Nightly Rundown as well. So yeah, we encourage you to stop by there, !Discord in the chat, or link in the description below. So Roy, I appreciate the raid. Andy Gardner, appreciate the host. Beal for real, appreciate the subscription. And then Ballad of the Salad and C-Men, appreciate the biddies as well. Guys, let's find somebody to raid, and then I'm going to call it a night. I'm also just like dead fucking tired. Dead tired. So let's see. Who's up? Who's live? Who is live? Do do do. Um, let's see. Okay, we rated this guy before. He's going to be a guest this week on Presco Live on Friday. His name is Etc. Kid. We are going to raid him. He does a really cool show where he converts usernames into melodies and drum beats, and then he improvises a song. He's actually written over 3,000 songs with his community, which is insane. So we're gonna send our love over to him. When you get over there, type in exclamation point drums, and you'll be put into the queue, and your name may be able to be selected to be turned into a drum beat. So we're gonna head over there, tell him what's up. He's probably gonna go for about another hour or so, and then be on the lookout for his episode of Presco Live on Friday. And until tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for the next episode of PvA Nightly Rundown, we love you. Goodbye.